Hello, welcome back to NB Audio Vault. Today in the episode of Dongle Madness, I will be doing coverage and review on this one, iBasso DC03Pro. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what's inside. The packaging for iBasso DC03Pro is quite simple. As can be seen here, this is the dongle itself. And underneath here, we have a detachable USB-C cable and also a USB-A adapter to connect to PC or laptop. Okay, now let's have a look closer. iBasso DC03Pro, just like the previous iteration of iBasso DC03 and DC04, comes equipped with dual Cirrus Logic CS43131, a DAC seemingly quite popular nowadays as a choice for dual DAC configuration. And looking at the whole construction here, it is beautifully designed, I must say, with all this aluminum CNC machine body, right? The most interesting part of this DC03 Pro to me being these two things here. Volume adjustment. These are physical volume adjustment, and they are independent of the system host, which I will explain later how it works. Simple LED indicator here, which offer only 3 color. Red meaning that it's switch on, green playing PCM, and I believe it's blue for DSD, higher resolution material. Both sides are covered with glossy glass faceplate. Looks very beautiful actually, and it's quite compact. The weight is no more than 11 gram each. And last but not least, iBasso DC03 Pro, just like the previous iBasso DC03, comes single-ended only. And this is the cable here. Attaching it is quite simple. Ready to operate. I will also include a bit of coverage on this particular USB cable here, which is CB18, which iBasso have generously sent me together with my DC03 Pro for review purpose. And it is in fact a very well made cable, braided and shielded, and this plug here made of stainless steel, and these are gold plated. I will also touch a bit on the sound aspect and the sort of quality that I get from this cable in sound impression. Alright, now let's have a look at build and functions. iBasso DC03 Pro, like I said, it is built on dual Cirrus Logic CS43131, and perhaps unique to this particular implementation of dual CS43131, it also has something called KDS femtosecond crystal oscillator, which I believe has something to do with cleaning up the signal even further to make sure that the output will be as pristine as possible. The output level for this dongle is similar to the original DC03, which is at 2 VRMS. And for actually on the lower side of it, on the lower gain, it runs on 1.77 VRMS, especially for 32 ohm device or lower than that. The output power for wattage is rated at 98 milliwatt at 32 ohm. Not that high actually, it's under 100 on paper at least, right? Most importantly, especially for highly sensitive equipment, the SNR rating, which is signal to noise ratio, is rated at 127 dB, which is quite good. In fact, anything above 120 is quite good. In fact, that kind of SNR is offered by flagship, or should I say high-end dongles. And despite running on 3.5 mm single-ended, which probably would kind of scare some people, considering that nowadays so many people are preferring 4.4 M balance. I will explain later why does this classic 3.5 mm does not bother me at all. And last but not least, definitely this too. Very important to me actually. Independent volume adjustment. When pressed, they are very tactile and very easy to activate. I always run on Android from my phone here. Okay. In fact, before running iBasso DC03, it is best to download this particular app here, named iBasso UAC, right? And then I would open this, and this is exactly what it will do. I will connect it now. Right, so it will ask, allow the app iBasso USC to access the USB device. Click OK. Again. You see that? This is probably one of the best part for iBasso DC03Pro. You see here, this physical volume adjustment, it offers 100 steps. That is seriously refined, because to give you a perspective, Cayenne RU6, which is this one of my favorite, offers 90 steps. Okay, but iBasso DC03 offers 100 steps, and once connected to USB exclusive mode through this app, when I do this, see that the volume adjustment works, and this is in fact independent from the system volume. There, 100. Of course, there are other features here as well, which I find very useful. Left and right balance, just in case if the user need to balance out the channel. And most interesting part for me as well here, digital filter, which has 5 selectable digital filter, right? The first one being, number 1 being fast roll off, second one being short delay slow roll off, third one being short delay fast roll off and slow roll off, number 5 being NOS, no oversampling basically. Another element which perhaps I find very useful would be the gain level controllable via this app. It goes from high, low to medium, and here the output, it says turbo, but I believe this is simply a toggle to switch between UAC 1 and UAC 2. So normally I don't touch this, I leave it for turbo unless I'm having any kind of issue with the Android host, which can only perhaps handle UAC 1. Okay? And why this is actually very interesting? Because this app literally gives the user a very advanced capability to fine-tune this iBasso DC03 to a point that it becomes so very flexible. Alright, let's talk about the volume adjustment itself first. Being so refined as it is, it means that, right, adjusting volume, especially for highly sensitive IEM that runs on perhaps like 8 ohm or even 16 ohm, right, can be quite a pleasant affair, because I really love it with the ability to actually fine-tune the loudness level to match, my listening tolerance. I really hate it when I have a dongle that does not have any kind of independent volume adjustment that will jump from one level to another, and literally, like, I find it very annoying. But with this kind of fine adjustment, right, which is highly controllable by this button here, very easy to press, even if the screen is off, right, on standby or anything like that, I get very good experience with volume level, similar to what I'm getting from Cayin RU6, perhaps better, because this jump is much more refined. It is almost as good as Centron's DAC HD. Okay, and also what's important to me, the digital filter here. For the most part, after testing it extensively, right, since many of my IEM or listening device are on the neutral bright side, I find that it sounds the best with slow roll off. For warmer IEM, I probably use this fast roll off. Or for some IEM, I use no oversampling, and I will explain later how does it work. But the key thing is that this option alone offered unprecedented kind of tuning, which is not an easy thing to get on many other devices. And also, even if they have that kind of filter, I have found that, especially coming from ESS Sabre kind of filter setup, normally they don't make much more different, but this one is really audible. I can literally hear that the moment I switch from here to here, sound differences. And of course, here, the gain switch. Normally, if the dongle even have selectable gain, they will only offer high and low. But DC03 is among the few that actually offer 3 modes: high, medium, and low. And this is also very functional. I totally love it, seriously. Let's talk about the sound aspect of iBasso DC03Pro. For sound impression or for regular listening, I will always use HiBi Music app here. It can be downloaded from Play Store in Google Android. So I'm not sure whether it is available for iPhone or anything like that, because DC03Pro can also work on iPhone. Okay, click on this. The lights comes up, and HiBi Music will ask, allow the app HiBi Music to access the USB device. Click OK. What it means is that now HiBi app has taken control of the dongle directly, bypassing Android system. And what it means is that right now my music will play in beat perfect mode without any kind of resampling, which is what we want. And the settings which I will always use for a dongle, especially those with dedicated volume adjustment, is here. First and foremost, I will allow exclusive HQ USB audio access, which is then will open up to advanced control of USB setting here. And I will allow it to run on USB audio performance mode, switch on. And in particular for dongle with dedicated volume adjustment, all volume lock. Now be very careful with this. All volume lock must only be applied to a dongle which has independent volume adjustment. Do not attempt to do that with a dongle which is not independent. Something like, for example, Tempotec Sonata, should I say X Duo Link 2 Balance, which is using a similar DAC chip as this, but it does not offer independent volume adjustment, because once you click that, it will just simply run maximum volume all the way. Right, so now let's just do a playback. I have my test music here, so let's just play here. You see, once played, right, when I click here, you see that USB audio volume has been locked. So everything now is 100% control here, which is can be seen from the UAC app. Now we can simply toggle and influence the sound using the app. Just don't close it. Keep it open in the background. Alright, as for the sound itself, I would consider DC03Pro being energetic, resolving, analytical, and euphonic. Yes, this is one very vibrant sounding dongle, or should I say DAC amp. It is in fact a sound signature of iBasso, which I have heard even before from DC03 and DC04, right? It is an evolution of that sound. However, right, I would say that if I were to compare this DC03Pro with the old DC03, I can literally hear, or should I say audibly hear, that DC03Pro has even better dynamics control and better transients in the overall scheme of things. It is in fact slightly boosted on the dynamic range, and when I say slightly boosted, right, it is in fact a bit colored. Perhaps I should say it this way, it is evenly colored. Typically, or should I say normally, I would prefer a normal, or should I say a neutral sounding dongle which does not boost anything, right? But I know that iBasso has exhibited tuning previously that they normally boost things up, which in return will make things offering dense with the note weight. It is rich, it is dense, right? The good thing about it, despite being slightly colored, it is still linear, evenly boosted from low to mid to highs. So it doesn't have any kind of uneven peak or anything like that, right? It feels linear to my ear at least, and I find myself liking it, in fact. The timbre characteristic, right, of this DC03 is focused more on hi-fi type of sound. And when I say hi-fi, it means that DC03, it is should I say less organic and not analog sounding. To give a perspective, right, comparing DC03Pro with Kain RU6 here, one of my favorite dongle, this is very analog sounding, right? And of course, my all-time favorite, Centron's DAC HD, this is both organic and analog sounding. However, DC03Pro sounds a bit more modern, right? Which probably the kind of sort of tuning of sound many people love nowadays. The dynamics handling itself, it is again very rich and dense, right? I would say that, right, the transient itself, the way dynamic transients are being handled, it is so very fluid, it is very crisp, very audible, and very bold, right? It is more evident depending on a partner which is already very analytical and resolving, right? Micro dynamics is definitely very succinct. What I'm trying to say is that the transition of sound from one frequency to another frequency, the flow, right, it is easy to hear it, right? There's a clean kind of dynamics body to it, right, to the sound itself. Again, the note weight is very rich and very vibrant. The attack and the decays being focused more on crisp, right, yet smooth at the same time. And I think what's important perhaps to many IEM user, especially those using hybrid or highly sensitive IEM, right, DC03Pro at 127 dB of signal to noise ratio, it is very black with the background. This is even evident even running on high gain mode. This sort of characteristic is very important because for something which is as low as 8 ohm IEM hybrid especially, right, some dongle would exhibit floor noise which can be quite annoying to some user, right? But the cleanliness of iBasso DC03, perhaps because of the oscillator that I mentioned earlier on, which control micro jitters and everything, makes it one of the cleanest sounding dongle that I have heard so far. Okay, now let's move on to technicalities. When I say technicalities, it pertains to soundstage, layering, imaging, spatial projection, speed, resolution, transparency, and all that. I can safely say that DC03Pro, right, the sort of technicality that it offers is on par with the top range dongle. No mistake about it, right? I'm hearing it output which is very clean, very resolving, very analytical, and yet at the same time it is very well handled with the staging, right? Perhaps I would say that the soundstage of DC03 Pro is not as wide as X-Duo Link 2 balance, because to me that particular dongle, which is running also on CS43131, still has an upper hand with the overall width and expand of soundstage. But it does not mean that DC03 Pro is also narrow on that. It's just feel that it's more circular, right? And it's more of like, you know, properly paced space, I would say, right? It does not sound narrow like some other ESS subrate based dongle, which I'll just pick one example like Hidis S9 Pro, right? Hidis S9 Pro is like tall but narrow soundstage. So does Shanling UA2. DC03 Pro sounds spacious enough to my ear, and that is more than satisfying for me. Again, like I say, technical wise, the kind of quality offered by DC03 is very top notch. Synergy and power. Let's talk about that now. Alright. For DC03 testing purpose and daily usage, I will always use this primary IEM of me, Atimotic ER2XR, which is practically neutral sounding unit with just minor boost on the lower frequency. Okay. And of course, I use C Audio Bravery here, which is my 4-driver balance amateur, very sensitive IEM. And also here, my favorite as well, SimGod Torsion EM2R. Definitely this here, Kinara Idun Golden, right? Which is a hybrid. And I also use a single DD from Venture Electronic, VE Azure. Another single DD which I like so much, alright, different sound signature, which is Tanjim 0. And of course, I also use open back earbuds from Venture Electronic. And I also use this VE Pro Mega Supernova, which is 32 ohm headphone, easy to drive headphone. Last but not least, my magnetic planar of T40RP MK3. Right. So if you've been counting just now, I have just shown you 10 different listening devices that I have extensively tested with this DC03 Pro. I'll just make it simple. DC03 Pro will work with all of them, establish synergy perfectly, right? And they all retain their sound signature, and then does not feel like overly colored or anything like that to my ears. I'm loving it. The overall theme of sound being consistent, which is highly analytical, energetic, euphonic, yet well controlled, and most importantly, even subjected to driving my heavy magnetic planar of T40RP MK3, I am hearing a sound which is full, rich, and satisfying. It does not feel like lean or anything like that. Partly because the nature of iBasso DC03 itself being rich in density, and when running on high gain mode, right, with a volume of close to around, yeah, I do need to crank it above 70 in fact for my magnetic planar, right? But once the loudness level has been matched, the sound is just like this. Perfect. I would touch a bit on this cable here, right, which is a CB18 USB cable. The special thing about this cable is that first and foremost, it is entirely shielded end to end, right? This particular end here, which is stainless steel, both ends, and then gold plated connectors, the cable itself being braided, right? And most importantly, perhaps it only allows for audio part. Unlike most other cable, it does not have any kind of power or charging cable together. What does that translate into real life application is that, right, when using this cable CB18, I can clearly hear, right, an improvement in the overall cleanliness of the output, because having a high quality cable, it also introduces the possibility of getting cleaner signal without any kind of micro jitter which can be introduced from RF signal from the phone or anything that might interfere it, right? And at least to my ear, what I'm hearing is that, like I say, it is clean and also seemingly offer a bit more air to the dynamics. It does not change the sound signature. The sound signature is retained, but however, it's just simply clean and airy. So if you are getting DC03Pro, I would highly recommend also to include this CB18 cable. It's totally worth it. Okay, now let's just recap and draw a conclusion on iBasso DC03. Where does it fall into the entire spectrum of things? Because as we know nowadays, new dongles are being produced almost like twice every month, if not even more. And the very fact that CS43131 usage and implementation is being seen quite regularly nowadays, right? We are seeing a lot more of double CS43131 for the simple fact that I assume Cirrus Logic DAC chip is a lot easier to implement for balance or even dual DAC configuration. However, right, before I conclude, let's just touch a bit on this iBasso DC03Pro. As I said earlier, right, it comes only in 3.5 mm single-ended. But, right, to me, I always believe that how it is being implemented is much more important than whether it's balanced or not balanced. Because despite this DC03Pro being single-ended, it offers some of the best sound that I have heard this year from a Dongle Madness contestant this year. Like I mentioned, I love the sound. It has amazing synergy with all of my equipment, right? And if I were to recap and compare with my previous experience with DC03 and DC04, they all still sound very energetic, that kind of sound signature from expected from iBasso. The difference being that DC03Pro clearly exhibit a refinement over those DC03 and DC04 in the terms of handling of the euphonic signature, or should I say the characteristic of the aggression of the sound itself. Like, if I were to recall correctly, right, DC03 or especially DC04, which even have higher power at 4 VRMS, it can be super energetic to a point that it can be fatiguing, right? Especially when connected to IEM that has analytical sound or brightness like Etimotic, headset sound hurt mirror, or like some of my IEM that I use now, SimGod EM2R, Roshan, and Tanjim Zero, all bright sounding unit. But DC03 Pro, when connected to that, surprisingly sounds smooth and polished to me. It is still energetic, it is still fun, engaging, but it does not induce any kind of fatigue. And I know that for sure because I have literally used this dongle the whole day, right? Rotating between my IEMs and totally enjoying my time listening to my music on shuffle. I put every kind of music that I can think of, running on my magnetic planar on heavy like load, no issue at all. Running for on open back earbuds, no issue at all. It's just simply outstanding, right? That kind of flexibility, that to me is something which I really appreciate and highly value. Now let's just conclude, alright. What would be the comparison as well with the rest of CS43131 implementation? Recently, I have reviewed this unit here. right? This is Kelly AP10, which also runs on dual CS43131. And you would also see that a lot more running on CS43131 as well. Especially most recently, the one that I rated highly would be the let me see, X Duo Link 2 Balance, and also Moondrop Moon River 2. All of them share the same CS Cirrus Logic DAC. However, the difference being is that, right, the implementation of AP10, I like it as well, but I have issues with the hardware feature of it. While having a dedicated volume mode here, right, it does not offer independent volume adjustment like this DC03Pro. And it's practically like very annoying to me still, because despite being able to adjust it, right, it's still tied up to the system level of volume jumps, which can be again annoying, right? And similarly can be said to link to balance as well. It is still attached to dependency to the host. Not a good thing actually, right? But DC03Pro is a prime example. In fact, DC03Pro already exhibited similar kind of volume adjustment, which was first introduced with Tempotec Sonata E44, another dongle which I really love as well, except that Tempotec Sonata E44 does not have 100 steps like this one. Tempotec probably offer at around probably like 60 steps. It is good enough, I'm happy with it, but not as great as this one. And also the sound signature between that Tempotec Sonata E44 and this best practically resemble similar kind of dynamic presentation, aggression and euphony. So it is definitely for some people who love to introduce an energetic presentation to their listening devices. And where else, Kelly AP10 and also X Duo Link 2 Balance together with Moondrop Moon River 2, the sound signature is a bit more mellow, less energetic, more neutral and smoother. And depending on the preference of the listener, right, it can be either choose this one, a bit more fun, energetic, or choose this one, or Link 2 Bell for something which is a bit more relaxed, right? Now let's talk about where does DC03 falls into the picture of Dongle Madness entire ranking system. There's 10 things which I'd like to share, alright, which before I give my final verdict on the rating. Number 1, the sound itself. DC03Pro is among the best sounding dongle that I have heard released this year, right? Make no mistake about it, right? I am hearing the sort of quality to be expected from top tier dongles. That's number 1. Number 2, it is exceedingly competent with technicalities. On the technical aspect of it, this is one of the most resolving, most detailed and most everything technical that I can think of, right? Because despite being simple, right, as it is, what it offers is that big. And number 3, it has very usable filter, digital filter that I mentioned earlier on, 5 type of sound profile, right? And each of them usable. And I say usable because regardless of what kind of sound signature my IEM or listening device has, right? For example, if I use my Atimotic ER2XR, Tangim 0, or even SimGod Roshan EM2R, which are natively bright on the brighter side, I always use slow filter. And it balances the timbre quite a lot, or should I say gracefully, to a point that this IEM sounds organic to my ear. And that is something which I love. And when I switch to something warmer or something a bit more neutral, like my C Audio Bravery AE and Kinera Idun Golden, I use fast roll-off filter or even no oversampling. And it then jive up with the harmonics of the output, which is really great. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all filters are workable. And then number 4, right? Functional gain level. You see, using the software itself, right, the gain level as offered by DC03 is very usable, very functional. It makes a lot of difference. I have nothing else to say more about it. It just have to be like matched with, especially if I have like so many kind of devices from very demanding to very sensitive, I can easily tune it to medium, high, or even low. All right. And number 5, right? Perhaps a big winner on my side, this independent volume adjustment. I can't stress enough how important it is, at least to me, being able to do refined volume level adjustment. Like I said earlier, right? 100 steps, and it is even more refined than Cayenne RU6. That is a premium feature, believe me, right? And then number 6, probably another thing which is mind-blowing for this device. 17 hours, right? 17 hours of runtime, right? On my Xiaomi phone here. And this phone is 4,000 mAh rated. To give you a perspective, when I attach this phone, run it continuously on UAC App USB exclusive mode with this Jackie AP10. Again, the internal similar to this. This AP10 only score at around 11 to 12 hours. But this one, 17 hours. This is the first dongle that breached above 15 hours in my entire dongle madness history. Not even Ovidius B1 can match the performance of this guy. It's really impressive, right? And then of course, number 7, things to consider, the build itself, it is quite premium. Right? For something which is relatively cheap, I'm surprised it doesn't feel cheap at all. And number 8, right? Synergy. I already shown you, I have used at least 10 dedicated partners that I rotate regularly to ascertain the sound output of this DC03Pro. I am just so happy to say that each of them synergized perfectly. Alright. And number 9, despite running for 17 hours non-stop until the battery runs out, this thing doesn't heat up, or should I say, it doesn't emit any kind of heat, which I have observed from the older DC03 or even from Tempotec Sonata E44, or especially a dongle like Hidis S9 Pro, which can be very hot, right? But this thing remains cool. Amazing, right? And last but not least, number 10, okay? Value proposition. This DC03 Pro is priced at $79 US. It is a crazy deal for this kind of quality being offered. And because of all that 10 factors, right? After deliberate thinking and everything, I have no doubt that DC03 Pro, iBasso DC03 Pro is a 5-star performer, right? Solid 5-star performer. There you have it. Thank you for tuning in to Dongle Madness. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you later.